This is this between us.
The number one podcast in the world.
This is
the JBU.Show featuring Austin,
from the Miller Talk Podcast,
ALLAN,
the American Sincerest,
and now your host,
Cam Allen.
All right, how's it going, everybody? My name is Chris, and this is the JBU.Show. I apologize for the late start today. I accidentally screwed up when I posted everything and put the wrong title. I do that every now and then. And as usual, I'm a little bit behind here, so give me just a quick second. We'll get set up and get going with the first video right now.
Woman can be a Republican.
Oh, there we go.
A few things that'll never make sense to me. How anyone can hate a Democrat, how anyone can hate a liberal, and how any woman can be a Republican. Like, how can you hate liberals? Like, that literally makes no sense to me whatsoever.
I bet
If
it doesn't,
If it wasn't for
I bet it doesn't.
liberals, everyone who is not a straight white man would not have any rights that we still have today in this country. If it wasn't for liberals, women wouldn't have the rights we still have in this country today. Even
Really?
so much as to have our own bank account, buy a house, buy a car.
No,
be able to
no,
vote
actually,
still
none of that's
without
true.
a man's permission or
No.
co-signature.
No, that's,
How can you
well,
hate
maybe that.
liberals? I don't understand that. And women who are Republican, you vote against your own best interests. It really makes no sense to me.
No.
And I am a
Not what's
proud
happening.
liberal Democrat, and I always will
No.
be, because I support women. Yes, I support all women, even when they continue to vote and support a party who does not support them.
See, this is something you'll never hear men say. I will never say I support all men. Because there's a lot of men out there that are dicks. There's a lot of men out there that are shit men. I don't support all men, and you shouldn't support all women. Most, probably. Not all. It's just a dumb thing to say, and it's not true. It's a platitude. Aside from the fact that none of that is true. First of all, men gave you the rights in the first place. You couldn't vote to give yourself rights you didn't have, right? And this idea that women had no rights is a lie anyway. What it was when they got married, as the Bible says, you turn over leadership to your husband. Now, whether you agree with that or don't agree with that, that's fine. But that's what we used to honor. If you were a single adult woman in America, you could still vote, you could still own property, you could still do anything a man could do, damn near. There are certain jobs that not the government stopped you from working, but that certain people wouldn't hire you for, and probably still shouldn't. But this idea that it was ever like illegal or you had to get permission, or that's not true. And yes, there are, I'm not saying that there were no issues either, right? There were definitely, like, do I think that you should need your husband's permission to do X, right? Well, it depends on what X is. If X affects him, then yes, probably, and vice versa. But if it doesn't, then no. I don't have any specific examples for you, but but regardless, like, none of this is what the Liberal Party is today. You've already long accomplished that shit. And actually, by the way, it was Republicans that accomplished it, not liberals. I mean, traditional liberals, you could say, that voted Republican. But that's the Democrat Party today is not liberal in any sense of the word. It is radical progressive or radical socialist or anarchist, depending on which, wing you want to look at. But the closest you get to liberal is the radical progressives, which are in no way liberal. Just because you want to believe that it's still that way, it isn't. The Democrat Party hasn't been liberal since JFK. There's no question today that JFK would be right where RFK is. In my opinion. I get it. Nobody cares, but that's okay. Anyway, we're going to talk about NATO tonight, as well as some more about the Iran war and stuff. I got a shit ton of videos for you. Austin may or may not pop in here, but I wouldn't hold my breath. He's been pretty busy the last few days, but I think he is planning on joining us tomorrow. We're going to be going on earlier because Artemis is once again doing something. In fact, I don't even remember what they're supposed to be doing tomorrow. What did he... Hold on. 5 p.m. tomorrow, Artemis 2 team is expected to land. Okay, cool. So they are expected to land tomorrow, which means I was right yesterday when I said they had a couple days left. So we will be going live for that at 5 p.m. He said my time, so that would be West Coast, Pacific Coast, Standard Time. Adjust accordingly. We will be live by 5. We might go a little earlier than that, but you can certainly tune in by 5 o'clock. We should be here. Nonetheless, Europeans are pussies. Just gonna lay that out there right up front. You guys are fucking pussies. And with maybe some small exceptions here or there that I will give, like Poland, for example, I don't consider you Europeans. I consider you Polish. That's about it. Like, you guys are absolute cowards. And your priorities, your principles, your everything is fucked. You don't have to be Donald Trump. You don't. But what you are is not the solution. On top of that, Donald Trump has officially kind of drawn the line on MAGA and went after Megyn Kelly, Alex Jones, Tucker Carlson, and Candace Owens. So we're going to look at what Donald Trump had to say. We're going to look at what the responses are. And, of course, I'll tell you where I am on all this. Not that it's not pretty obvious, but there's an interesting video here, going to the Iran war first. Interesting video here that suggests Trump's goal is to lose the war in Iran. And so let's play this and talk about it.
Okay, so what if Trump is not an idiot? What if losing the war in Iran is exactly the plan? Let me show you something the media will never tell you. So everyone is saying Trump is destroying America. He is fighting an unwinnable war in Iran. He is threatening to invade with ground troops. He is pissing off NATO by threatening Greenland. He is picking fights with Canada, Mexico, Denmark, Colombia. JP Morgan says the world will run out of oil by mid-April. The global economy is about to collapse. Trump looks like the worst president in history, a complete buffoon, right? But what if that's the whole point? What if Trump wants to lose the war in Iran? What if he wants the American empire to collapse? What if he wants to destroy the global economy? Then he would be a genius. Let me explain. Right now the world gets 20% of its oil from the Middle East. Japan gets around 75% from the Middle East. India gets around 60%. China gets around 50%. Europe is also heavily dependent.
Okay. Europe's heavy dependence has absolutely been a problem and is definitely part of what this war is about. We'll get into that in a minute. Japan too. Because Japan and Europe are allies. India is not an enemy, but they're not an ally. They certainly have been more favorable to China than they have been the United States and been trying to cozy up there. I'm willing to bet many Indians are starting to question that strategy since watching China's China and Russia's defense of Venezuela and Iran, two countries that they heavily are dependent on and did absolutely nothing for. But I think that they should probably be in a different category than Japan and the UK. But let's go ahead and see how he concludes this.
But here's the thing, oil is not rare. Venezuela has the world's largest oil reserves.
True.
Canada has massive reserves. United States has massive reserves. Trump just took over Venezuela in January. He's threatening to take over Canada. You see where this is going. If Trump closes the Strait of Hormuz by fighting Iran, the Middle East oil stops flowing. But North America is still pumping. Suddenly Europe, China, Japan, South Korea, they all would need American oil.
Okay, he is failing to mention that Russia has lots of oil too. And currently, Europe buys that oil from Russia. Japan, I'm not sure. I assume they buy it from the Middle East, but they might buy it from Russia too. Now, Europe shouldn't be buying it from Russia because they're apparently terrified of Russia, yet for whatever reason, they're funding their war. Ukraine, I don't understand why you're not pissed at Europe. Like, yeah, they gave you a couple handouts. Most of it, you weren't even allowed to use for defense. The majority of the money that Europe gave to Ukraine, which was like a fifth of what we gave them altogether, it was only allowed to be used for rebuilding infrastructure. All of it was a loan. None of it was free like what we gave them. And then they gave them a few man pads and a few tanks and stuff, but just hand-me-down stuff. Mostly useless stuff besides the man pads, of course, have proven very useful. And that's it. Meanwhile, they give Russia, they're literally funding Russia's entire war machine. So why Ukraine doesn't absolutely hate Europe at this point, I don't understand. But yeah, so Europe's apparently terrified of Russia, yet they're funding their war machine against Ukraine so that Russia gets closer to them.
Not just oil, fertilizer too. The nitrogen for food production also comes from the Middle East. If that's cut off, where do they turn? There are only two options, North America and Russia. Trump is making the entire world dependent on the resources he controls. Now here is the genius part. Who owns the most US debt? Who's financing America's $39 trillion? It's Japan, China, Taiwan, South Korea, UK, France, Belgium, and Luxembourg, the same countries that need Middle East oil. There's been this fear that these countries would stop buying US Treasury bonds, that they would move to gold or Swiss francs, that America's Ponzi scheme would collapse. But now they need American energy. They need American resources. They can't abandon the dollar. They are trapped. Trump just turned America's biggest weakness, its debt, into its greatest weapon. By starting an unwinnable war in Iran, he's forcing the entire world to depend on North America. This isn't new. Putin already proved that this strategy works in Ukraine. Russia has been fighting for 5 years. It's a slow grind, but it has restructured Russia's entire economy around war production, drones, ammunitions, and military manufacturing. Russia went from importing Iranian drones to making their own and now exporting them to Iran. Putin's plan was that the world is collapsing anyway, so why not build a fortress, make Russia self-sufficient, control the resources, and weather the storm? America saw this and said, we can do the same. Greenland for rare earth minerals, Canada for oil and resources, Venezuela for oil reserves, Mexico for manufacturing, Panama Canal for trade control. So maybe Trump is not being reckless. He is actually building a self-sufficient North American fortress while the rest of the world burns. So yes, Trump looks like an idiot. Yes, he's losing the war in Iran. Yes, he's destroying the global economy. But if the goal was to end the American empire and rebuild it for Americans, to make the world dependent on US resources while everyone else collapses, then Trump might go down as the greatest American president in history. Maybe the New World Order is dead, and maybe we are heading towards a Trump world order. Greenland for build a fortress. Russia went from importing Iranian drones to making Iran the world collapsing anyway. So
there we go. So, yes, this is what Trump is doing, but not based on the world collapsing, not based on any of these collapses, right? That's nonsense. He's right in some ways. The world is already dependent on the US dollar and our economy. If our economy suffers, if we go through a Great Depression, the entire world suffers tenfold. As bad as COVID was, well, the inflation post-COVID from the massive amount of spending that we did, the rest of the world was far worse off. And part of that's because most of the world has worse policies, but it's also because they are dependent on us. They necessarily can't do better than us. by definition. And it's not that they couldn't necessarily, but in the way that they choose to run their own countries, they necessarily can't. That's a better way to put it. It's not that we're setting them up so that they can't. It's just that's the way they choose to run things for themselves. People like Malay are trying to change that for their own countries, and shout out to him for doing so. See, the thing is, most Americans, and maybe not all American politicians, because many of them are just like politicians anywhere else. They're egotistical. They want to control everything. And as egotistical as Trump is, Trump genuinely cares about this country. And that's what sets him apart, and that's why MAGA voted for him. Because the thing that gets his ego happy, or however the hell you put that, I don't even know, is America doing good, not Trump doing good. Yes, obviously Trump doing good matters, but he's already proven that he can be successful in his own life. A lot of people point to, oh, he's had 6 bankruptcies. Yeah, and he's still a fucking billionaire because he's made very shrewd moves. He's used the bankruptcy system, for example, to gain money rather than lose money. Regardless, he's already proven that he can be successful in his own life. The next step was, can I share that success with the nation that I love so much? You don't have to believe it. You don't have to believe that he loves this country. I get it. That's fine. But, I don't get it because I think it's blatantly obvious. You can also believe it and think that what he's doing is not good for this country. That I can definitely see an argument for, at least. But the fact is, I think he genuinely wants his legacy to be that he has made America a stronger, more prosperous nation that is set up for whatever is going to happen in the future in the best way possible. I think we all kind of agree that there's going to be a World War III, and we don't know exactly what it looks like. Hopefully, we pray to God it's not a nuclear war. And hopefully it won't be. Hopefully MAD is enough to deter an actual nuclear war. I don't know, though, because once empires are threatened, there's a problem. At the very least, what's going to happen is the empires that exist currently, that would be Europe, that would be Russia, that would be China, that would be the United States, and the Middle East probably kind of as a block, and maybe India, although India will probably have to fall in with the Middle East or China or Russia or the United States. Most likely, what's going to happen is these countries are going to continue to jockey position to control resources, meaning control the other nations. I'm not saying that because I want that to happen. I'm saying that's most likely what's going to take place. Most likely, these leading nations and groups of nations that control the power and the resources right now are going to fight over control of the rest of the resources. Because before World War III can happen, you have to secure your resources. And I think that's what Donald Trump's motivation is behind all of this, and why Venezuela and Iran do represent America First values, even if this isn't the most ideal time. Because by controlling Venezuela, we control the oil, period. Between the oil we have and Canada has, and whether Canada likes it or not, they're stuck with us. They can't move. They can't get away from us. We're not going to allow anyone else to buddy up to them close enough to matter, because they're on our border and we have a right to defend ourselves, and we can, most importantly. If we want to take Canada, there isn't shit Canadians can do. Nor would they. They're not, they don't have the same sort of national pride because they're too liberal. Or, well, too progressive. But, and I'm not saying I get, you guys in Alberta, I get there are many Canadians that do have national pride. I'm just saying, as a whole, as a nation, sorry. It is what it is. And the fact is, if you tried to buddy up with China, for example, we're just not going to allow it. We're going to take the country. We're going to do everything we can probably to avoid that, because I think we're much more useful as the nations exist currently, but we wouldn't be able to allow it. It would be far too dangerous for us. Regardless, because of Canada and the United States, and because of Venezuela, which has the most oil reserves by like threefold the next highest country, which is Russia, and then the United States. We're pretty close, Russia and the United States, as far as proven oil reserves. And America still has a lot unproven. Between Canada, America, and Venezuela, the point is, it's overwhelmingly the majority of the oil in the world. The Middle East, Russia, and China combined would have a second smaller half. And really, this is probably what it's going to look like. Just like World War II, there's going to be allies and Axis. Call it however you want. It'll ultimately look like that. I don't know that Europe will actually be allies this time. I don't think that there'll be Axis powers. I don't think you'll ever see a true alignment between Europe and Russia and China, for example. I think they'll more be like Sweden and Finland. Sweden and Finland, not Switzerland. I always get the two mixed up. I apologize. But whichever one's up there next to Finland, you both were pussies in World War II, and you like to claim that you were neutral, but really you were collaborators. The fact that we would bother to forgive you is kind of sad to me, but whatever, it's not up to me. I think that's what Europe would end up being. They would be collaborators with Russia and China. Maybe with the United States, but I don't know. And mostly they would just try to limit the impacts on themselves. But I think Donald Trump is trying to realign America's power here in the Americas, as well as, some strategic places, as well as maintaining some partnerships. I think our partnership with Australia is incredibly important. They also have massive oil reserves. And obviously parts of Asia. But I think that aligning the continents is a very wise move for the United States. And I think it's clear, the idea that Trump wants to crash the economy is stupid. We do better when the rest of the world is doing better. The goal is not to lose the war in Iran. The goal is not to have Iran continually block the strait. The goal is to dismantle Iran and to, in turn, have an Iran that is friendlier to the United States, but at least is not allowing China and Russia access. That's all. This is all about China and Russia, guys. This is not about Iran. It's not about well, it is about Venezuela, but it's not about Iran. It's not about the oil. We are already friendly with all of the nations except Iran. And I think, I might be wrong, but I think Iran's output's lower than the rest of the nations. Individually and together. We're already friendly with the rest of those nations. It's not like we need Iran too. Most of those nations have already worked out a way to move their oil not through the strait. The strait is almost irrelevant at this point. If the war continues on too much longer, it will be irrelevant. I don't see any reason why we would care about Iran itself other than denying it to Russia and China. That is the ultimate goal. Donald Trump is trying to make sure that we have the resources that we need, that our enemies are not at our back door, and that by controlling those resources, we also control the enemies and the neutral in the world to not help our enemies. Because if Europe decides to buy oil from Russia, for example, or decides to help China, let's do that instead. If Europe decides to, that's the point. It's not a goal to harm Europe, for example. It's a goal to prevent Europe from aligning with somebody else. I understand why most Europeans don't understand this. I understand why most Europeans don't like this. I get it. You're not the most powerful, though. You don't have to make these decisions. And you know that if you were the most powerful, you would have to make these decisions. Nobody likes the guy on top in a situation like this, not individually. And that's fine. But the fact is, the rest of the world, they don't respect weakness. They respect strength. They don't like it, but they respect it. And that's what matters. And that's why I appreciate Donald Trump as much as I don't like some of the things he does. And that's why, despite me having some similar complaints to a Megyn Kelly, for example, you'll never catch me turning my back on Trump specifically. And I'll explain that when we get to that portion here. But the idea that this is about losing the war or collapsing the world's economy, it's nonsense. Most of that was correct, but the goal is to do that via improving the economies and winning the war. Now, I'm a little concerned at the moment because of the way negotiations are going. In fact, let's take a look at that real quick. There's a tiny bit of fear right now that Trump is going to make a deal with the radicals that are left. And that, of course, is a terrible idea. And I really hope that he doesn't do that. I think that he probably isn't going to do that. But that's what it looks like right now. And so that's concerning. Trying to find here. Give me just a second while I find the relevant videos. They must be over here.
My next guest has been an astute observer of what's going on.
I guess we'll start right here. I wasn't actually planning on playing this particular video, but we're gonna start with this one and see what it says here, because it does seem relevant to the point.
Going on right now with the Iran conflict. He's made many amazing observations, and right now he's saying that it's also started the new AI Cold War. It's official. I want to bring in now AI entrepreneur, also geopolitical commentator, Eli David. Eli, first of all, man, your stuff is amazing. You know, there's a lot of slop out there, a lot of doom scrolling stuff. When I see something that you post online, I know that it's real. So let's just start with that. One of the biggest narratives out there is that Iran is winning or somehow they're in control. What do you think about that?
I know it's ridiculous to say that Iran is winning. The United States and Israel have managed to just decimate them. Their entire military, anything above ground is gone. The defense industrial part of the country, it's all gone. Most of the underground sites, they're all gone. So the vast majority of the targets are gone. We are very close to a total victory here. They just have left the highly enriched uranium, which is very important, and some of their underground ballistic missile capabilities. And after we deal with this, and I'm sure President Trump will deal with it successfully, just as he dealt with everything else, then we have a total victory over the most ruthless regime in the world right now.
So these conditions, both sides have released their conditions. It would be a mild understatement to say that they're a million miles apart, but we know this is the negotiating process. We started just a couple hours ago, Benjamin Netanyahu saying he's ready to negotiate with Lebanon. So even though they're so far apart, it feels like all sides maybe want to find a way to resolve this conflict.
Well, President Trump holds all the cards here. The entire U.S. military that was here before and during the war, it is here, and actually more reinforcements are coming. The Israeli military is ready to intervene whenever President Trump decides. And Iran's economy, as their president said 2 weeks ago, they are just a few weeks from total economic collapse. So they are negotiating with little to no cards here. And at any point in time, President Trump can decide to, again, hit them hard or even more economic pressure
that
on
to
them,
happen.
they don't have any cards here to play with. They
It's
are
gonna
publicly stating as if they are winning, but even they know that they've lost this war.
Let's switch gears a moment, because the war began with the Claude playing a major role in targeting the leaders of the regime.
Okay, so before they get into AI, I want to stake my claim here, because that's something I like to do on this show. I don't mind being wrong, and so I don't mind making definitive claims and then correcting myself later if necessary. I also offer all the time. I asked yesterday, anyone that can tell me one way in which Donald Trump has exceeded his presidential authority or violated the U.S. Constitution, I'll eat my words. You can comment, or if you go to rumble.com/user/justbetweenus, you can join the call I'm on right now. I'm literally in a digital chat room, basically, and you can either call in or you can video in, and you can tell me how I'm wrong. One way in which he's violated the Constitution or exceeded his presidential authority, and I'll eat my words. Nobody's done that yet. You can also just comment under the show or send me an email, jbu@usa.com. I'll check that here in a minute to make sure nobody did last night. Anyway, as far as the claim that I want to stake right now, I'm going to say, and I'm going out a little bit on a limb here, but I don't think too much based on Trump style. Expect the United States to start bombing Iran again. Maybe for us to take Crag Island. I think there's a good chance we're going to take Crag Island before this is over. But the Iranians are still coming to the negotiating table as if they have anything to negotiate. And I don't think Donald Trump is going to accept anything but total capitulation. So I think that while he is negotiating in good faith in the sense that he's perfectly, willing, he knows the Iranians aren't. And I think he knows this is going to require hitting him again. So I think that it's very likely that these negotiations are not going to end in a permanent ceasefire. And I think we are going to have to hit them again a few times before we get some serious negotiations out of it. Let's hear what they have to say about AI, and then we'll move on to some other things. Now, I could be wrong about that, but I'll go ahead and go on record right now and saying I don't think this is the end of negotiations, and I definitely don't think it's the end of the war.
And then, of course, Ghost Murmur helping us find that downed airman. You say that this is
We'll talk about that Ghost Murmur thing, too.
The AI Cold War has officially begun.
Absolutely. The future will be dominated by the most advanced AIs. Just these days, everyone talking about the Anthropic's latest model, which is the 10 trillion parameters, much larger model that requires much more amount of compute, much more energy. And there are two powers here fighting against each other. The West, led by United States, and China. You see the latest LLMs, United States and China. So we are already in the middle of this Cold War, and AI determines everything. For example, during the current Iran war, there are many publications, public knowledge, that AI was heavily used by United States, by Israel, to prioritize targets, to find vulnerable assets on the other side, and to help protect our forces. And AI will become an even bigger part in any future conflict.
Yeah, and that's why, I've said, here in America, it boggles my mind, the pushback against AI, against data centers, understanding that not only is economic prosperity, but it's probably going to mean freedom because of the role it will play in keeping us safe. Keep up the great work. Eli David, appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Nothing particularly interesting there, but that's all right. So let me move on here to some other videos.
Let's welcome back.
Let's go ahead. Go
back
with
to
this
the
one.
show, GOP Texas Congresswoman Beth Van Duyne. Thanks so much for joining us.
Yeah, there's a decent amount of Fox ones tonight. That's just the way that the dice crumbled tonight. I try to keep it pretty mixed, but there is more Fox than usual tonight.
What's your assessment of this? Will Iran do a real deal? CENTCOM Chief Admiral Brad Cooper said Iran suffered a generational military defeat. We should also clarify oil did close up 3% today. What do you make of what's happening?
Well, look, I think you know that Iran is going to do everything they can to stall. They're going to do everything that they can to lie and to just try to piecemeal this and not get anything at the end. You know that they're going to have to actually have to produce. They are going to do this on purpose to try to make stall and for as much time as they possibly can. And I think J.D. Vance, the negotiating team, understand that that's what they're going to do. But they've been very clear about what the goal is, and the goal is to prevent the nuclear ballistic weapons from being able to reach outside of Iran. You've already seen Iran attack its Gulf neighbors. You've already seen it threaten the Strait of Hormuz, and you've already seen it threaten the global stabilization of energy. This is what we need to make sure that they don't have the ability to do in the future. Their army, their navy, their ground troops, their missiles support has all been decimated, but we need to make sure that that continues and not to take the pressure off before those goals are reached.
Got it. Congresswoman, President Trump suggests the U.S. and Iran could work together to dig up and dig out Iran's enriched uranium. Can he get that uranium? Can he get them to open the Strait of Hormuz? Iran reportedly now demands $1 per barrel of oil toll charge for the strait paid in crypto. What do you think?
$1 per gallon.
I think Iran is going to continue to try to fake that is fine, fake it till they make it. And again, this is why this is a president who not only says what he does, but does what he says. And he needs to continue that pressure. They understand that. This is not just kicking. You don't kick the hornet's nest and then walk away. You make sure that this is a power that cannot come back and threaten the rest of the region, the rest of the world, the global markets. So I believe that they're going to do that with the negotiations. I think Iran is going to try to demand all they want. And the other countries in this area that rely on the strait for their energy should be able to back us on this to make sure that's in their best interest and recognize the fact that the U.S. is energy dominant. They are not, and they need to learn from our country, moving forward.
What do you make of Democrats trying to invoke the 25th Amendment against Trump in the middle of trying to get Iran to give up its enriched uranium for a nuclear bomb that could hit Europe, and they were possibly trying to hit the U.S. with it? He's trying to stop Iran's terror regime here and trying to open up the Strait of Hormuz. What do you make of Democrats trying to invoke the 25th Amendment against him right now?
I think their hate for this. I think their hate for this country or their hate for this president is more than the love of this country. I would remind them that they are U.S. Congress members representing the best interests of our citizens, of our country, and to start acting like it and stop undermining our military, stop undermining this mission, stop undermining America to the rest of the world.
All right.
My next guest has been an astute observer of what's going on right now with the Iran conflict.
All right. So, let me see here. What else we have as far as this is concerned, anyway. Right. Okay. So this is the other aspect of this, and that is Lebanon. Israel and Lebanon specifically. Lebanon was never part of the peace negotiations. It also has nothing to do with us. Now, a lot of people would argue that it does, but I don't really see how. We decided to wage this war with Iran, and we did so in conjunction with Israel. We are definitely in charge of the war in Iran specifically. Israel is wise to take a back seat anyway, because we obviously have more power, more money, more everything. But twice Netanyahu went around Donald Trump. Twice Donald Trump slapped him back down and told him no. The last time being when Israel struck, it was an oil refinery or a power source, like a power generation plant or whatever. I forget exactly what it was, but nonetheless, it might have been a water desalination plant too. It was some sort of civilian infrastructure. And this was a couple weeks ago. And First, it was reported that the U.S. did it. And we said no, it was Israel. Israel admitted that they did it, but they said that we gave them permission or that we knew about it one way or another, implying that we gave them permission. And Donald Trump flat out publicly said that's not true and they need to stop, and told Netanyahu, I don't know exactly what he told him, obviously, because it was whatever he said to him directly wasn't publicly, but Netanyahu was forced to publicly come out and apologize for lying and admit that they're going to stop hitting civilian infrastructure because we told them to. That's something that no president has ever done, first of all. And that's why I don't buy this, oh, Trump's Netanyahu's bitch. Of all presidents, Donald Trump twice has forced Netanyahu to come out and apologize about shit that he said. That's a very rare thing among world leaders, okay? And I don't know that anybody but Trump could achieve such a thing from any world leader, let alone Netanyahu, who apparently is, the master of the universe, according to a certain wing of the party. Regardless, they're continuing to bomb Lebanon because they have their own issues with Lebanon and Hezbollah. Iran's upset about that, but there's really not much they can do to us about it because they can't really do anything anyway. They keep hitting Israel because Israel is hitting Lebanon, but I don't know that it really has any effect on anything that we're doing. Here's some of the details on it.
What we like to call around here Friday Eve, Sandra, but a lot still ahead of us.
All right, we are following the developing details from this story. I'm Sandra Smith in New York. Good to be with you, John. Also happening right now, Israel says it will begin peace negotiations with Lebanon, focusing on disarming Hezbollah. The first meeting is set for next week at the State Department. All of this after a series of strikes in Beirut put a permanent agreement at risk.
Meanwhile, President Trump says the United States will keep a presence near Iran until a final peace deal is reached and the Strait of Hormuz is fully reopened. CENTCOM providing an update on the status of American troops in the region. Listen here.
U.S. forces have paused offensive operations in accordance with the ongoing ceasefire. However, we remain present. We remain vigilant, and we remain ready if called. To all our soldiers, sailors, Marines, airmen, guardians, and Coast Guardsmen operating forward, you represent the strongest, most lethal military the world has ever known.
We have complete coverage for you right now. Retired four-star General David Petraeus will join us in moments. Peter Ducey's at the White House tracking the impact of the Strait's closure.
But first, we go to our chief foreign correspondent, Trey Inks, who's live with all the latest from Tel Aviv. Trey?
Yeah, John, good afternoon. A significant development today as Israel's prime minister announced talks are scheduled with Lebanon. The prime minister said in a statement, quote, in light of Lebanon's repeated requests to open direct negotiations with Israel, I instructed the cabinet yesterday to begin direct negotiations with Lebanon as soon as possible. The negotiations will focus on the disarmament of Hezbollah and the regulation of peaceful relations between Israel and Lebanon. Israel appreciates the call made today by the Prime Minister of Lebanon to demilitarize Beirut. This does come after Israel launched a series of strikes yesterday targeting Hezbollah across the country. And earlier, a new warning by Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian about these Israeli strikes in Lebanon that said in part, quote, the continuation of these aggressions will render negotiations meaningless. Our hands will remain on the trigger, and Iran will never abandon its Lebanese brothers and sisters. International focus does remain on the Strait of Hormuz, where reports indicate 8 vessels have passed since the ceasefire began. Iran's deputy foreign minister says the strait is open, adding this today.
Those technical restrictions are very much connected to the wartime condition, and it takes time to be removed. So safe passage is secured. Strait of Hormuz is open, but of course, each tankers and each vessel should make necessary arrangements with the Iranian authorities to be able to securely pass the strait.
A lot of details to be worked out this weekend. Vice President J.D. Vance will be joined by Special Envoys Jared Kushner and Steve Witkoff. And
pass the strait. Tankers and each vessel should make necessary arrangements with the Iranian authorities to be able to
I don't know why I thought he said
securely pass
Israeli.
the strait.
A lot of details to be worked out this weekend. Vice President J.D. Vance will be joined by Special Envoys Jared Kushner and Steve Witkoff in Islamabad, Pakistan, to talk directly with the Iranians. John, Sandra?
All right, Trey Inks with the latest for.
It's worth noting that every single time we see somebody speaking for Iran, it's somebody different. So anyway, this is where we're at, right? Israel looking for two birds with one stone, basically. We don't care about Lebanon. That's not our concern. We're not helping them strike Lebanon, which, again, if Trump was Netanyahu's bitch, wouldn't we be striking Lebanon too? It seems like Lebanon's ready to cave, so that's good. You know, benefit to Israel. I don't care. The problem that Iran is going to have is Americans are not going to be satisfied until the Islamic regime is no longer in power. The Islamic regime doesn't seem willing to accept defeat and want to negotiate as if they have any room to negotiate. It's not... I'm pretty sure we're going to go back to fighting again here pretty soon. It seems most likely. As I've said from the beginning, I give him 90 days. Whatever he does within that 90 days, I'm on board with. But I don't see how we secure a fall of the regime without taking Crag Island, and I don't see a complete fall of the regime without the Iranian people. I said this yesterday. You know, the Iranian people, what is it worth to you? Do you want to be out from the thumb of the Islamists forever? Because if you do, you got to step up. There are more of you than there are of them. They physically don't have enough bullets. Take that to mean what you want it to mean. But only they can decide if it's worth it or not. Nonetheless, let's move on to some other topics. We got plenty of time to talk about Iran going forward. As of right now, you know, negotiations are apparently going good. Nothing's really changed. So it is what it is. We'll brush on it a little bit here as we go through some of the other stories that we have. But, boy, there's just so many stories. Let's get into the... Well, what should we do? Should we get into the NATO thing or should we get into the Trump thing? Hang on just 1 second. Okay. Let's see here. Give me 1 second. Let's see whichever one I got up next is oh. Yeah, let's cover the Dignity Act real quick. So Dignity Act introduced by Representative Salazar, who is a Republican, is I don't understand. Is Salazar is she a Republican like Liz Cheney was a Republican? Like I don't really know anything about her. All I know is this bill is nonsense. It's as bad, if not worse, than the bipartisan bill that Joe Biden introduced with Liz Cheney. Here's a briefer. Like I said, a lot of Fox News clips tonight. It's just the way it broke out.
What are the qualifications? It's all subjective, subject to various waivers and the discretion of the Secretary of DHS. And I'm sure no Democrat DHS Secretary would ever waive in millions of people. So we barely scratched the surface in the so-called Dignity Act discussion debate last night. So we're going to dig a little deeper tonight. The bill would hand legal status to millions and millions of people, probably all total about 15 million people, all of them here illegally, including people with serious criminal records, like gang members.
Yep.
Supporters will tell you, oh, no, they're not eligible. That is wrong. And the bill says this as well, but here's a catch. The bill restricts the government's ability to actually verify gang affiliation, limiting which databases can be used and requiring proof within a narrow 5-year window. things get worse. The bill expands chain migration, setting up humanitarian campuses in Central and South America. These are basically processing centers to fast track more family members coming into the United States. And I love this gem. If you represent illegal aliens as a lawyer, you could get your student loans forgiven.
Oh,
so
lovely.
Who wins here? Activists, cheap labor lobby, and illegals. Who loses? American workers.
And you might be wondering, who would be behind a bill like this with a Republican candidate? It's the Kochs. And for all the talk about how the Kochs are, the most evil Republicans on the planet, they've been extremely against the Republic, or at least the conservative and the MAGA agenda pretty much this whole time. Yeah, like a lot. They're very much in favor of H-1Bs. They're very much in favor of mass immigration. I'm not for that. I don't know about you. I'm not for that.
Workers, taxpayers, and the rule of law. Here to discuss is one of the fiercest critics of the bill, Texas Congressman Brandon Gill. Congressman, look, basically all these provisions can be waived, except for maybe aggravated felonies like murder and a couple of others. But even a number of misdemeanors, DUIs and so forth, fraud and so forth, can be waived if there are family concerns or others. Your reaction tonight?
That's right. This isn't just an amnesty bill. It's far worse. This is just a straight up mass migration bill. On the one hand, it gives amnesty immediately to 12 to 15 or more illegal aliens, but it also hamstrings the president to stop him from conducting deportations of the other illegal aliens. And there's also a provision in the bill that would allow DHS to bring back aliens who have already been deported under the first Trump administration if they meet certain criteria. So this bill is really every single thing that we ran against in the last election cycle. We got a mandate, we got a trifecta from voters in order to deport illegal aliens, to secure the border. That's why they gave the president the popular vote. So to turn around and tell voters, you know what, you asked for mass deportations, we're going to give you amnesty and worse, is an absolute, it's an unforgivable political betrayal.
Well, and you just nailed it in your various social media posts on this. You said it was a double middle finger to the middle class, and that it is.
Yep.
For the reason that you stated and more, once an illegal enters the so-called dignidad, that's also insulting. I love the Spanish language, but it's just English language. Thank you very much.
The bill is titled
program,
in Spanish.
They can't be deported. Check this out.
Is just a new status called the dignity status, which then will give those illegals or undocumented the possibility of living a dignified life in the promised land.
We're going to talk about that word dignity here in just a minute. And I think that it's a incredibly apt detail that was noticed by somebody, which we'll discuss here in just a second.
To continue working, but be able never to be deported, be part of society with no shame or fear.
She always seems angry to me. Congressman, they keep seeing that illegals are living in fear, living in the shadows. I mean, whether Virginia, New York City, or in Florida, I don't see the shadows. I see people who are likely illegal aliens doing work that, frankly, Americans used to do.
Of course. You know, the people who are actually living in fear are the Americans who are sending their kids to schools that are flooded by fentanyl because of our open borders and because of what illegal aliens have done. The people who are living in fear are the Americans who can't put food on the table because their wages have been suppressed because of illegal aliens who are in this country or who have lost their jobs altogether. And those are the people that we ought to be looking out for. Those are the Americans that we represent. We don't represent illegal aliens. We represent American citizens. Those are the people whose interests we should be pursuing, not amnesty bills like this. Illegal aliens are not in the shadows. They're right out in the open. They're transforming our communities, tearing our social fabric apart, and absolutely undermining the economic independence of American citizens.
Well, they're getting college scholarships. I mean, they're literally getting college scholarships. So in the shadows, the whole argument, Congressman, but this really is like Freddy Krueger immigration style, because this nonsense in one form or another when you were back probably in college. This has been circulating since like 2006. Okay, so this has been going and going and going, and every time it comes along, it's like whack-a-mole. I have to knock it down, and then it pops up a few years later. But do you know who wrote this draft of the Dignidad Act? Do you know who wrote it? Actually put it together?
You know, I actually don't know who wrote this bill.
Yeah, well, I have a feeling it's the cheap labor lobby, but it ain't Congresswoman Salazar, I can tell you that much. Congressman, thank you very much.
I'll see if I can get an answer to that. I was kind of expecting an answer, but I guess not. Let me see if I can get an answer on that real quick, and then we're going to talk about the word itself, dignity, because it's a clever play on words. It's exactly what communists, progressives, socialists do. They change the meaning of words. And somebody whose name I don't remember offhand, so I'm going to tell you in a second, was astute enough to recognize that. Asking Grok real quick if he can tell me who originally wrote the bill. Let's see. No, it just says Salazar. Veronica Escobar, Democrat, Texas, co-introduced it. Asking him to dig a little deeper and see if he can find any other names attached to it or similar or previous versions. All right, well, he's doing that. I want to share this with you. And then also, Benny Johnson is trending right now. Appears he might be jumping on the Israel thing a little bit. So we're going to listen to that, too, and see what that's all about. That kind of gets into the whole Tucker Carlson, President Trump stuff. So we'll come back to that here in a minute. But first, I want to find this on the Dignity Act. Here it is. So Congressman Brennan Kill said the Dignity Act is mass amnesty and would constitute a terrible betrayal of our voters. I don't know if that's who we just listened to. I wasn't paying attention. Sorry. Salazar said, read the bill before you open your mouth. Calling the Dignity Act amnesty isn't just wrong, it's a deliberate distortion and it exposes just how little you know about the bill. This is enforcement first. Zero tolerance for criminals, permanent border security, and hard-earned requirements to step forward and face the law. So American workers are protected, not undercut. Amnesty is the chaos you've defended. Millions in the shadows, no control, no accountability. Yeah, that's not amnesty. In a system that stopped working long ago. No shortcuts, no giveaways, no blanket forgiveness. That's law and order. That's dignity. Okay, except it is blanket forgiveness. That's exactly what it is. She's just lying. I mean, you just heard some of the provisions of the bill. Anybody is welcome to look it up. I'm not going to read through this entire bill because, of course, it would take forever. But let's take a look at the word dignity itself. This comes from Data Republican. Real quick, before we get into that, I want to look at no public records, press releases, bill histories, or reporting identify anyone other than Salazar. Okay. Says she introduced originally in 2021. She says it's a personal vision, I'm sure. Consulted with stakeholders. That should be one of those buzzwords for you, by the way. Okay. Yeah, it doesn't look like he's come up with anything. He did say the bill is eerily common to other comprehensive immigration packages. The Dignity Act incorporates or draws directly from several long-standing standalone proposals, including the DREAM Act, amnesty, the American Families United Act, amnesty. Earlier versions included framework provisions and TPS pathways that have appeared in past bills. The overall structure, border security plus asylum reform plus legalization for long-term undocumented echoes frameworks like the 2013 Gang of Eight Senate bill, the 1986 Immigration Reform and Control Act IRCA. Through the 2025 version is more limited, though the 2025 version is more limited, the Dignity Program gives temporary legal status, but not technically full amnesty. Okay. By the way, it's important to remember, real quick, that we were told that none of these people meaning illegals, asylees, etc., receive any government benefits, right? Yet, USA Today seems to forgot that they help push that narrative, because this post from a week ago, these Californians could lose local CalFresh food benefits. Why? Who funds CalFresh? EBT. Same thing. Technically SNAP, right? It's not EBT anymore, it's SNAP. Whatever. Same thing. And this is how they get away with saying it. They don't get any federal benefits, but they get dozens through Democrat and sanctuary states from the federal government. So it's still you. And either way, it's still taxpayers. Some Californians may lose CalFresh food assistance due to multiple changes affecting eligibility for the program, one of which could impact hundreds of thousands in the state. Hundreds of thousands. Really. Asylees, refugees, and people with deportation removals. Withheld or removals withheld are among the groups of non-citizens. So it's not all non-citizens, but it's those groups of non-citizens who will no longer be eligible for CalFresh under the change on April 1st, although when that goes into effect will be determined by whether you're a new applicant or not. This is another win by Donald Trump, by the way. This is from the Big Beautiful Bill. This change, along with changes to work requirements coming later this year, has been in the pipeline since President Donald Trump signed the One Big Beautiful Bill Act. Tax and spending bill into law last July. The changes impact the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, or, as it's known, CalFresh in California. So remember, these people told you, they're not on SNAP. You're not paying for illegals' food. Even if they have a deportation order, you are paying for it. There's a reason these people associate in Democrat states. And there's a reason Democrat states give them all these handouts. They want the votes. And even if they are not voting directly, which I promise you, some are, even though we don't know it, because there's no way for us to know it, which is why they're able to claim nobody's voting in the elections, because there's no way to know it. Even without that, just the fact they are counted in the census increases the number of votes that the state and representatives that the state of California gets, that the state of Washington, the state of Oregon, the state of New York, etc., all get. Every single American should be against this. Anyway, sorry. I know that's a digression, but a worthy one nonetheless. So, this is what Data Republican had to say. Hello, Representative Salazar. You probably don't even know this, but the word dignity in your bill's title, which remember, it's actually dignidad, Spanish, which just seems like an insult in and of itself, carries decades of political science literature behind it. Dignity shifted from something that originates within the individual to something engineered from above by institutions. When the UN, NGOs, and multilateral bodies invoke dignity, they mean the replacement of organic, inherited civic bonds with managed, contractual ones administered by a professional class. That is the tradition your bill's language is drawing from, whether you intended it or not. Trust me, she did. On the substance, the Dignity Act is amnesty. Symbolic barriers to permanent residency do not change. The bill provides a path to legal status for tens of millions of people who enter the country unlawfully. Others have dissected the policy details thoroughly, so I won't repeat their work here. But I want to press a different question. Why the insistence that it is an amnesty? The most straightforward explanation is that you know your constituents oppose it. They voted for enforcement in the most demographically diverse Republican coalition in modern history. That coalition didn't ask for managed integration. It asked for sovereignty. The Founding Fathers built a republic from the bottom up, starting with the human nature as it actually is, rooted in specific communities. The rules-based international order builds from the top down, starting with an abstract ideal and engineering populations to match it. Your bill, whatever its intentions, belongs to the second tradition. That one is not American. It assumes that cohesion can be manufactured through NGO programs, public schools, civic integration, managed assimilation, rather than protected through enforcement of the boundaries that self-governing people choose to establish. That is not a conservative position. It's not a Republican position in any meaningful sense, and your constituents can see it. We see you. You're a fraud, Representative Salazar. Obviously, extremely well put. And it's important to notice because he's dead on about that. I don't know that there's anything else to add. So with that said, I guess let's move on to what's going on here with Donald Trump and Megyn Kelly and all the rest, okay? Fuck, I hate to even get into these things. So Donald Trump posted a tweet on Truth Social aimed at Tucker Carlson, Megyn Kelly, Candace Owens, and Alex Jones specifically. He named those individuals specifically. Rather than read this to you, I figured you might want Donald Trump himself to read it to you. So that's what we're going to do.
Carlson, I know why Tucker Carlson, Megyn Kelly, Candace Owens, and Alex Jones have all been fighting me for years, especially by the fact that they think it is wonderful for Iran, the #1 state sponsor of terror, to have a nuclear weapon, because they have one thing in common. Low IQs. They're stupid people. They know it, their families know it, and everyone else knows it too. Look at their past. Look at their record. They don't have what it takes, and they never did. They've all been thrown off of television, lost their shows, and aren't even invited on TV because nobody cares about them. They're nut jobs, troublemakers, and will say anything necessary for some free and cheap publicity. Now they think they get some clicks because they have third-rate podcasts, but nobody's talking about them. And their views are the opposite of MAGA, or I wouldn't have won the presidential election in a landslide. MAGA agrees with me and just gave CNN a 100% approval rating of Trump, not hand-flailing fools like Tucker Carlson, who couldn't even finish college. He was a broken man when he got fired from Fox, and he's never been the same. Perhaps he should see a good psychiatrist. Or Megyn Kelly, who nastily asked me the now famous only Rosie O'Donnell question. Or crazy Candace Owens, who accuses the highly respected First Lady of France of being a man when she is not, and will hopefully win lots of money in the ongoing lawsuit. Actually, to me, the First Lady of France is a far more beautiful woman than Candace. In fact, it's not even close. Or bankrupt Alex Jones, who says some of the dumbest things and lost his entire fortune, as he should have, for his horrendous attack on the families of the Sandy Hook shooting victims, ridiculously claiming it was a hoax. These so-called pundits are losers, and they always will be. Now, fake news CNN, the failing New York Times, and all of the other radical left news organizations are hailing them and giving them positive press for the first time in their lives. They're not MAGA. They're losers, just trying to latch on to MAGA. As president, I could get them on my side anytime I want to, but when they call, I don't return their calls because I'm too busy on world and country affairs. And after a few times, they go nasty, just like Marjorie Trader Brown. But I no longer care about that stuff. I only care about doing right for our country. MAGA is about winning and strength in not allowing Iran to have nuclear weapons. MAGA is about making America great again, and these people have no idea how to do that. But I do, because the United States is now the hottest country anywhere in the world. President Donald J. Trump, thank you for your attention to this matter.
Absolutely well done by that guy. We've obviously heard a lot of Trump impressions at this point. A lot of people are very good at it. I think Steven Crowder's got one of the funniest, but that was probably one of the most accurate I've heard, which was pretty good. He didn't quite get the affections just right, the afflections, whatever it is, just right, but close enough. All right. So, look, he went after in the same way that Trump does, right? Like the thing with Alex Jones, for example, we'll just go with that one because I recognize it the most. Bankrupt Alex Jones, who says some of the dumbest things, lost his entire fortune, as he should have. No, he shouldn't have, right? It was absolute bullshit. We all agree, absolute bullshit. Don't agree with Alex Jones on 99% of things. That was absolute bullshit. I don't know whether or not I care that Trump came out and did this. I think he probably should have just continued to ignore it. There's a lot of things I wish Trump would just ignore. There's a lot of things we all wish Trump would just ignore. But that's not who Donald Trump is. He was going to do this. We all know he was going to do this. If it annoys you, who cares? Don't pay attention to it. Doesn't matter. It'll go away by tomorrow. I do want to say, so Megyn Kelly, I've heard the least of. And I'm going to play, I have Megyn Kelly's response and Alex Jones' response. I haven't heard anything from Candace, nor do I care to, because as I've said, I really think she's just gone cuckoo. And so I don't really, there's no credence to give. I just feel bad when I listen to her because she's so out there. Now, the things that she said about Charlie Kirk's wife and Trump being responsible for the assassination occur, those are disgusting things and shouldn't be said, in my opinion. But I truly believe she is lost a nut somewhere. And so, like I said, I just feel bad when I hear her. I don't even care to go down that road. Tucker Carlson, I don't think has said anything, though, so I didn't have anything as far as that goes. Megyn Kelly, I've heard the least of as far as criticisms about Trump. I've heard a lot about it, but I haven't heard her specifically talking. Like, I haven't heard her words directly. I have some that I'm going to play as a response to this, but I will give her some credit for, you know, anybody on the right has a right to complain about Donald Trump. Anybody on the right has a right to criticize Trump. The problem is when your criticisms aren't legit. Like Tucker Carlson and Nick Fuentes whining about Trump's Easter tweet. And then Tucker Carlson, you know, even going too far for Nick Fuentes and whining about Islam. Where's the conservative value? There isn't one. He doesn't like Trump. And I don't think that Tucker Carlson is doing anything that is beneficial for Americans. That's my problem. I don't think Fuentes is doing anything beneficial for Americans. I don't think I think Alex Jones has tried to. I don't think Candace Owens is doing anything beneficial for Americans. I think Alex Jones has tried to, and I think that he's way off base on this one. I think he's way off base on a lot of things, to be fair. I think that Megyn Kelly is trying to, but I think she's off base on this one. But she's at least not saying stupid shit like Tucker and Candace. And even Alex Jones, I don't know that he's saying stupid shit. We'll find out here in a second, because I don't remember exactly what he said. But I haven't heard him say, you know, I'm going to vote for Democrats. I haven't heard him say that Trump's a pedophile and hiding the Epstein files bullshit. Maybe he has. If he has, then fuck him too. But the thing is, just because you're upset with Trump about something, and there are plenty of legitimate gripes to have, you don't just throw the baby out with the bathwater. Did you forget everything that brought us here? I get that he's not the dictator some of you want him to be, but he's not a dictator. We elected him to be president. He gets more than enough from the left that if you're going to criticize him, just be reasonable about it. Don't be a leftist about it. That's all. Don't say stupid shit that you can't take back and therefore just have to double down on and double down on and double down on. Credibility matters. So let's hear Megyn Kelly's response to this. And then we'll hear some conservatives' responses, and we'll hear Alex Jones. But I want to go to Megyn Kelly first. Because I think that of the four, she has the most credibility still.
I mean, I don't know about you, but I am sick of this shit. I'm sick of it. Can't he just behave like a normal human?
It's a fair complaint. It's just a stupid one. You didn't realize who he was until now? What are you expecting? Look, I don't love some of the things that Trump has done. I've said it many times. I don't love his tweet on Easter. I don't hate it. I'm not going to condemn him for it because that's exactly what I expect Trump to tweet. But I don't think he's degrading anything. Do I wish that the office of the president still had a level of decorum that hasn't existed long before Trump came around? Yes. It hasn't existed long before Trump came around. That's one of the reasons we elected Trump. Because all the Republicans were trying to maintain that fucking decorum, even though the left they weren't playing that game anymore. And when one side stops playing it, and you're the only one playing it, well, they're just playing you then. That's why we fucking elected Trump. So to act like you're sick of it now, when it's the literal reason we elected him in the first place, one of them, is just stupid. And I think that Megyn Kelly talked herself into a corner and is trying to avoid doubling down without actually having to take her words back. And you'll see why here in a second.
I mean, honestly, like the president, 3-8, yes, shut up. Fucking shut up about that shit. You don't threaten to wipe out an entire civilization. We're talking about civilians just casually in a...
Why are you suddenly starting to take what he tweets or says literally? We've said the entire time that you can't take Trump literally. That taking what Trump says literally is stupid. So why are you all of a sudden taking this literally? Especially when it was so obviously, so blatantly obviously a ploy, a tactic. Because you talked yourself into a corner. And now you have to justify that corner. And because, like I said, I think she's trying to justify that corner without having to double down because she knows she doesn't want to go down the road of Tucker and of Candace.
Social media post. You know, like, I am the first to try
these
to
complaints are
understand
so
Trump
hollow
and his strategy
at this point in time.
and not freak out over his weird social media posts and language that is loose and incendiary. Truly, I've lived with it for 10 plus years. I learned it the hard way when I was on the receiving end of it for 9 months. And truly, I think that was a gift to me in many ways because it helped me really come to understand what he does with his social media. But this is completely irresponsible and disgusting.
Yeah.
This is wrong. It's wrong.
It worked.
He should not be doing it. I don't care that it's his negotiation tactic is to kill an entire country full.
You see how she just framed it there? No, his negotiation tactic is not to kill an entire civilization. His negotiation tactic is to threaten to. And then not do it. Did he kill an entire civilization? No. Did he even pretend to for a week? No, it was a couple hours. And would he, does Megyn Kelly actually believe that he was going to nuke Iran until there was not a single person left? No, she doesn't. Nor do I, nor do you. We all know that what would have happened was a major bombing campaign. It wouldn't have involved a nuke. Anyone that's speculating that, I mean, fine, speculate it because that's what Trump wants, is you to think that it's a possibility. But you're an idiot if you actually believe it's a possibility. And I don't think Megyn Kelly's an idiot. I think she's playing the idiot in order to justify her outrage about, as she just said, something she's well understood for more than 10 years. That's what I don't get. None of this is new. None of this is shocking. This isn't 2016.
Of civilians, men, women, and children? An American president?
Okay, you're adding
so
words
that the Strait
that he
of
didn't
Hormuz
add.
will be opened? It's just wrong. It's not hard to say it. It's not hard to recognize it. I wish he would stop doing this. Like, he can't negotiate without doing this? What does that say about him? What does that say about
Jesus Christ.
the position that our country is in right now in these negotiations? He's got to say this. He can't be a dignified, strong leader without
He's warning them, dude, you have two options right now. Capitulate, or we're just going to go harder. She's adding words that he didn't say. What he specifically said was, Wipe out the civilization of Iran, I think. Said civilization one way or another. He didn't say every last man, woman, and child. And he even followed up with the tweet to the Iranian people, which very clearly indicated that he was talking to the regime, not to the people of Iran. And again, Megyn Kelly knows this. She's just trying to backpedal.
Threatening a bunch of war crimes? Like what is he, Genghis Khan?
What was the war crime? What was the war crime that was being threatened? Obviously, no war crime was actually committed. What was being threatened? This is just pathetic.
Like, what is he trying to do? And why can't he do it with strength, threats? Sure, go for it. That don't diminish and demean the United States of America in this way.
In what way? He threatened them. That's it. Now you're diminishing and demeaning us by acting like it was something other than it was. I can't with these people. Like, it's so... I'm exhausted with that in the same way she claims to be exhausted with him. That's what it is. This really isn't that complicated. It's not hard. And as she said, she's understood it, how he operates like this for 10 years. So what are you shocked about? Why is this surprising to you in the least bit if you've understood for the last 10 years how he does these things? Excuse me. All right. So that's what Megyn Kelly had to say. Here's Marjorie Taylor Greene, who was also mentioned. I guess we can listen to her. This was on Jones's program.
And my God, gut the deep state. That was what we wanted so bad. Hold people accountable for the love of God. Put Anthony Fauci in jail. Put people in prison for what they've done.
I find it rather ironic she says this. When you were in Congress, what did you do? Besides sit around and wait for your retirement to vest and then bounce. She's a snake as far as I'm concerned. I've always considered her a snake. I said it from the moment, at the very least, I said it from the moment during Biden's last State of the Union when she was out there screeching like fucking Ilhan Omar and the other one. You know he's not a dictator. Now, do I wish Fauci was in jail? Yes. Do I think that there's probably enough to put Fauci in jail? Maybe. I don't know. The fact is, we let him work for the U.S. government. That comes with a lot of protection. Comes with a ton of protections. Sucks. But maybe we should worry about who's still doing his job more than we worry about him, who is gone. I said this when Trump was elected because there were a lot of people like Marjorie Taylor Greene. They wanted revenge. And I said, revenge is a waste of our time. And that's something that I think Trump recognizes that Marjorie Taylor Greene does not. Far better to make sure we are in a position that these things don't happen again. The Democrats aren't able to sell out our country to China anymore. That we're not being bent over a barrel by world trade anymore, etc. You know, I could go down the list. I don't want to. Than to worry about going back and dealing with these losers who, yes, deserve to be dealt with. But it would cause all sorts of problems with, attempts at impeachment and calls for authoritarianism and all the problems the liberals will come up with if we were trying to go after them. And then what do you get out of it? A fucking Fauci's gonna be dead in 2 years. Yay, you got him in jail for 6 months before he died. The guy's 97 years old. Do I wish that he couldn't live out the rest of his life in peace? Yeah, I wish he was behind bars. I think what he did to this country was evil after a jury trial of his peers. But his punishment comes in his memory, his legacy. And that's already ruined. He already fucked that for himself. Going after him with the DHS would just mean millions of dollars spent, years on a trial that may or may not end up in anything, depending on what evidence is available and what protections he had for the official duties of his job. It's not as simple as go and arrest him. And it's a waste of fucking time. I don't want this shit to happen again. I don't give a shit what happens to those losers. That's a waste of time.
Done to the American people.
They killed, Todd Blanche killed all the investigations now. He's the head of all those investigations.
Yeah, and nothing will happen. That's the other thing. So here, going forward in the future, Alex, I believe this is the discussion that we need to keep having. And we are, me and you and others, and we do it offline, and it's important. And we need to make sure that we're in control and
Let me ask you this right now. Would you rather Fauci be behind bars or the fraud in Minnesota and California stopped? And yes, it is an either or thing, because the amount of effort that is required for those two things are probably about the same. It's not one lawyer. It's hundreds of lawyers. Would you rather the fraud or Fauci behind bars? Which one does better for you going forward? I would rather the fraud stop, because that's still happening. We're going to talk about that as soon as we're done with this.
You're guiding the ship, because President Trump is soon to be the past. And everyone needs to learn to start looking past him. President Trump is going to be gone very soon. Yeah. And we have to build a future for our children and our grandchildren. And that's the part that's most important to think about. And the way I think it needs to be going forward is we have to recognize what a failure the Republican Party is. We have to be willing to step outside political boundaries and go, what type of leaders do we really want? And for me, it's America first. I want moral America first leaders that will put the American people first instead of their own interests or their friends or whatever disgusting things they're doing, which is sadly the case. But I think that is where the future is going. And look, Republicans are going to get killed in the midterms. I've been saying it for a long time. It's going to be a bloodbath. And
it'll
you know
be your
what?
fault.
It shouldn't happen. It wasn't supposed to be that way, but so be it. You can't blame people for refusing to want to vote for a party that has failed them over and over and over again. And, I don't blame people.
Yeah, so might as well have Democrats, right? I showed you last night why you don't want that.
It's like, why do you want to keep buying a product that is crap?
She talks like she accomplished something while she was there. She accomplished nothing either. Because most of this, or at least a lot of this, has to be done via Congress. It can't be done in Congress without the majority. The full 60-seat majority. As far as what Trump's doing, I don't know what more you want. I get that the things that he has chosen to prioritize are not the same thing that everybody else would have chosen to prioritize. They're not necessarily the way I would have ordered priorities. But he's still doing a lot. And even, I asked you the question about fraud because I'm going to go to Pam Bondi here in a minute. I owe her a little bit of an apology because I said I don't think she's done shit in the last year. Well, I have some things she did. I owe her a partial apology, because I still have a problem with her lack of accomplishments. And obviously the Epstein thing and all that. But she did more than I thought she did. And so I'm going to demonstrate that. Or I'm going to show you what she did. Nonetheless, we'll go to the Benny Johnson thing here in just a minute. Let me go to Alex Jones now.
Corbett.
So he said this before he made a full statement. It's just 30 seconds.
I was about to say.
I'm going to go shoot a report, but I'm just wondering if Trump's been held hostage or something. So listen, I'm not mad about this. He's mad that he's wrong.
Wrong about what?
And he's mad he got set up by Israel.
How was he set up by Israel?
And once the man twice a child, this is dementia. And so, it doesn't matter. We're going to keep intervening.
Now he's parroting radical leftist lines. He has dementia. There's a lot of things you can accuse Trump of. Dementia is not one of them. Not yet. He's old as shit. It could happen any day. I've seen zero evidence. He doesn't stutter like Biden. He doesn't forget what he was talking about. He doesn't mention people that aren't even in the room or that are fucking dead and have been dead for 10 years. Show me a sign of dementia. You know the leftist media would be just playing it on a loop if he ever said something that he said 2 seconds before that, like Biden did, or stumbled on his words, or just started mumbling off into nothing. They would play it on a loop. It hasn't happened.
He knows he was wrong about Iran. He's throwing it.
I will say, just to be fair, he has slowed down a little bit. And you definitely see him rambling a little bit more than you used to. He's an old guy.
Fit, and it's okay. We're going to continue to be adults and just respond to this.
Yeah.
He needs some zeal lights.
Yes, he does.
What did he say?
Lights.
Yes, he does.
Continue to be adults and just respond to this.
Yeah.
He needs some zeal lights.
Yes, he does.
Oh, we need some zeal lights or something. What, I don't know. Something that he's peddling, probably. All right,
President Trump came out.
More direct response here.
Well, President Trump came out on Truth Social and attacked myself and all the original MAGA supporters today. And I'm just so sad that whatever's happened to him.
Okay, hold on. No. He did not come out and attack all the original MAGA supporters today. He came out and attacked 4 people who have been acting based on theories, but no facts. I would be right here with Alex Jones, with Megyn Kelly, definitely not with Tucker Carlson, and definitely not with Candace Owens, though. If you could provide evidence, but you don't have any evidence. How did Israel trick us into this war? Show me how. I understand the war benefits them. But I showed you yesterday, Trump has been talking about doing this since 1987. How did Israel trick him?
Has totally changed the man he once was. He did so much good. That said, it followed just a few hours after Melania Trump came out, unannounced. Reportedly, Trump didn't know, and said she wasn't involved with Epstein, and she supports a full investigation by Congress into the Epstein cover-up. Trump says Epstein's a hoax. So this reminds me of...
Yeah, Trump's definitely been not clear enough on that. What he means by Epstein is a hoax is that this idea that there's this big cabal of people that are being covered up by President Trump is a hoax. Not that Epstein himself is a hoax.
Melinda Gates, Melinda French, when she started turning against Bill, also over Epstein. So Trump's got big problems, folks. And I am just so concerned about this country and the world. Trump's being led around by the nose by Netanyahu and by Mark Levin and others. And it's so sad. The Iran war is a total disaster. A black eye for America. They control the Strait of Hormuz. It is just absolutely incredible what we're seeing and what we're facing. I supported the old Trump. They got so many good things done. But at the end of the day, I just feel sorry for him and pray that God touch his heart and soul and free him from the demonic influences that he's under. I mean, it's just that simple. This is a nightmare. We know the Democrats, the left, are absolutely terrible, but
have you
when
started
Trump's
drinking
calling
again?
for wiping
Is
out
that
whole
what's going
civilizations
on?
and acting like a supervillain, I have to come out and say I don't support it. It's that simple. So again, Trump's own wife came out at an unannounced press conference today and said the Epstein crimes are real and that she wants the victims to be in front of Congress to cover up the end. That's the opposite of what Trump's saying.
Yeah, that's, first of all, that's not the opposite of what Trump's saying. That's never been the opposite of what Trump said. And what she came out and said was the people that were slandering her and her husband based on these Epstein allegations are full of shit and gonna get sued, basically. I'll play what she said here in a minute. I forgot about that.
To me, like she's breaking with Trump because she knows the ship's sinking, has found out the truth. Elon left 8 months ago saying he's in the files as a cover-up. I never saw any evidence of it, but he's acting like he's guilty. We know he's protecting Howard Lutnick, who said he didn't know Epstein didn't go to the island, and he did. So all I can say is this is a terrible day, and it's a nightmare for America and the world, but I'm going to tell the truth, report on the facts, no matter what it is. Was I somewhat...
Show me the facts.
Naive? Did I defend Trump too long? He did so much good? Yeah, I did. Are people that, said I defend him too long, are they right? Yeah, it looks like they are. Fine to a victory lap. But I did it from a place of believing he was the lesser of two evils. And I guess at the end of the day, justice be done may have its fall. There's no such thing as lesser of two evils. So I took the establishment attacking him as the sign I should support him. I took myself being attacked for supporting him as a sign I should support him. And now it's certainly clear that this new Donald Trump is somebody we shouldn't support, and I'm not. So I'm energetically opposing him. I'm calling for the 25th Amendment. If he
I don't
continues to
see
call
any
for
change.
nuclear war and genocide. Hopefully he backs down. We'll continue to report as this unfolds, but that's the facts. Melania Trump, they've said, was turning against Trump years ago. I never believed it, but now she's definitely countermanding what he said and done, saying there's nothing to Epstein. She's saying there is. It should be investigated. I stand with Melania Trump, and I stand with the truth. I stand with the victims of Epstein.
Simply not what she
against
said.
the Epstein class. Follow me on X, Real Alex Jones. On Rebel, the Alex Jones Show.
There's no such...
God bless you all.
The Epstein class. Who is the Epstein class? Oh, we don't know because they're hiding the list. Okay, you have the victims. Why haven't they said anything? Who is the Epstein class? Let me play Melania's words real quick, and then I'll play a few responses from, to be fair, somebody I don't like either, and then we're going to get out of here for the day, because this is just tiresome. All right. This is what Melania actually said.
First Lady Melania Trump.
The audio's messed up here to begin with, so...
With the disgraceful Jeffrey Epstein need to end today.
She said, to begin with, the rumors regarding the disgraceful Jeffrey Epstein need to end today.
The individuals lying about me are devoid of ethical standards, humility, and respect. I do not object to their ignorance, but rather I reject their mean-spirited attempts to defame my reputation. I never been friends with Epstein. Donald and I were invited to the same parties as Epstein from time to time, since overlapping in social circles is common in New York City and Palm Beach. To be clear, I never had a relationship with Epstein or his accomplice, Maxwell. My email reply to Maxwell cannot be categorized as anything more than casual correspondence. My polite reply to her email doesn't amount to anything more than a trivial note. I am not Epstein's victim. Epstein did not introduce me to Donald Trump. I met my husband by chance at a New York City party in
Yes, it really sounds like she's throwing her husband under the bus here.
1998. This initial encounter with my husband is documented in detail in my book, Melania. The first time I crossed paths with Epstein was in the year 2000 at an event Donald and I attended together. At the time, I had never met Epstein and had no knowledge of his criminal undertakings. Numerous fake images and statements about Epstein and me have been circulating on social media for years now. Be cautious about what you believe. These images and stories are completely false. I'm not a witness or a named witness in connection with any of Epstein's crimes. My name has never appeared in court documents, depositions, victim statements, or FBI in interviews surrounding the Epstein matter. I have never had any knowledge of Epstein abuse of his victims. I was never involved in any capacity. I was not a participant, was never on Epstein's plane, and never visited his private island. I have never been legally accused or convinced of a crime in connection with Epstein's sex trafficking, abuse of minors, and other repulsive behavior. The false smears about me from mean-spirited and politically motivated individuals and entities looking to cause damage to my good name, to gain financially and climb politically must
Just to be clear, that good name is Trump.
stop. My attorneys and I have fought these unfounded and baseless lies with success and will continue to maintain my sound reputation without hesitation. To date, several individuals and companies have been legally obligated to publicly apologize and retract their lies about me, such as Daily Beast, James Carville, and HarperCollins, UK. Now is the time for Congress to act. Epstein was not alone. Several prominent male executives resigned from their powerful positions after this matter became widely politicized. Of course, this doesn't amount to guilt, but we still must work openly and transparently to uncover the truth. I call on Congress to provide the women who have been victimized by Epstein with a public hearing specifically centered around the survivors. Give these victims their opportunity.
Those survivors, by the way, that all said on national television that they were not abused by Trump nor knew anybody that was, or any allegations of him being involved in sex trafficking or illegal minors. Further, I don't know, see, and this is the thing. This part of the statement, I think, is only her trying to I'm not sure exactly how I'd categorize it. I think that it's just merely her trying to demonstrate that she's not trying to hide anything. I think that a lot of people are reading too much into this because these victims, they have had these opportunities. They refuse to name anyone else. Maybe they're afraid of lawsuits, and that's the only reason. Maybe they don't actually know anyone else. We know that Jeffrey Epstein slept with underage women. He was prosecuted for that. Not enough, we all know. We know that he held many parties in which certain CEOs and maybe even members of government slept with prostitutes. But there is no hard accusations or proof that they were underage prostitutes or underage girls, period. None. Now, you can say the government is hiding those documents. I would argue that if those documents were to exist, the government wouldn't have been hiding them. They would have been destroying them back when Obama's FBI first raided the Epstein Island. Why would they keep incriminating evidence on themselves? With all the attention on this, what's stopping the victims from naming anybody if they can back it up? They don't even have to be able to back it up. They just have to be willing to name the person. You think anyone's going to have the balls to sue them over it? You think anyone's going to have the balls to call him a liar over it? And look, that's kind of unfortunate because it's a lot of power that could be given to these victims who deserve plenty but don't deserve to be able to falsely accuse anybody. But if anyone's ever had that power, they do. Because nobody's going to question them. Because nobody wants to. Nobody wants to take the position I've taken on this. Which is, because I used to subscribe to most of this Epstein stuff. But then once the documents came out, it became blatantly evident to me, if there was incriminating evidence, why would the government keep it on itself? And then on top of that, of the evidence that we do actually have, there's nothing there. The worst accusations. And there was one that I heard that was recorded. It was I believe a phone call to the FBI tip line, if I remember correctly, that was outrageous and insane sounding and awful, but didn't name names and could not be corroborated. Everything else is just random calls to the FBI from individuals who could not prove in any way that they had any connection to any of these people and could not corroborate their wild stories. And most of it was like my roommate's roommate, said that they once were at an Epstein party. That's not evidence. There are no facts. And if we're going to convict people of the most heinous crimes possible, we have to have facts. Whether you like it or not, the government has spent a lot of time and money investigating this and couldn't find any facts. Now, okay, you choose not to believe that. Well, what about the millions of internet sleuths, private investigators that have been hired, etc.? Have they found any facts that they've presented? Where are the facts? That's all I want. I'm happy to throw whoever under the bus with facts. I don't understand why that's such an unpopular position, because it's far more fun to believe in this fantastical thing and everyone's out to get us, and every time someone does something wrong, it's because they're part of the Epstein class. I get it. It makes it a lot easier to shape a worldview, but it's not factual. It's just conspiracy. And I'm all for conspiracies, but there has to be hard evidence that at least points us in that direction. And right now, the only hard evidence that exists regarding Jeffrey Epstein is that Jeffrey Epstein himself was a piece of shit. And that maybe a couple people that hung out with him once or twice were kind of skeevy. That's it. And believe me, I have no love for people like Bill Clinton. I think the painting's odd. But where are the facts? Where is the evidence? With so many people looking for this stuff for so long. I mean, fuck's sakes. You think these people eat babies and they just magically stopped? You think somebody that is that insane could just stop doing it because you're paying attention now? And if they didn't stop, then how come nobody has said it? How come nobody, not a single person has come out and said, I overheard this. I saw this with this person on this time, and I can prove that I was in the room or I was in the fucking state at that time. Nothing. You know what that usually means? There's not anything actually there. Do we really believe they're that good at covering their tracks? I don't believe that. What about all the people that work at the NSA, the FBI, the CIA? You don't think even one of them would be like, yeah, I can't fucking pretend this doesn't exist? I mean, look at Snowden. Snowden came out and told us, look, I can't be a part of it. They're spying on you, and they shouldn't be. They can access your phone if they want to. He's lived in exile for the last 20 years because of that. You don't think if somebody had proof spying on a politician's phone or access to one of their family members' emails or phones or computers or tablets or whatever, you don't think that at least one person at the NSA would have to come clean on that? I have no problem eating my words on this, but you have to show me something. If anyone wants to take me to task on this, you can do it on the air, or you can do it in private, and I will respond on the air. JBU@USA.com to send me an email directly. You can join the show anytime I'm live. You can jump right in here on audio or on video through Discord. Go to rumble.com/user/justbetweenus. Click on the live show. If you're already watching on the live show there, then go to the description, Discord link. Follow that. It'll bring you right to me. Otherwise, comment, and I can see that as well, of course. Just checking real quick. Nope, still nothing. Okay.
To testify under oath in front of Congress with the power of sworn testimony.
And that has never happened.
Each and every woman should have her day to tell her story in public if she wishes.
They have.
And then her testimony should be permanently entered
all
into
about
the
Epstein.
congressional record.
Not anybody else.
Then, and only then, we will have the truth. Thank you.
She's apparently not aware that they've already done that. Now, not on the congressional record, but in court and on the news, and literally anybody is willing to listen to them talk. They've not named anybody except Epstein. Why? What more do you want? We'll talk more about all this stuff tomorrow, although probably not Epstein, because I just don't want to go down that road anymore. I'm so sick of it. I'm so incredibly sick of it. If something actually new, not a new accusation, but a new fact comes to light, I'm more than happy to get back into it. But that means there has to be a new fact. Let's go to another crazy leftist before we get out of here. This time, a Japanese leftist. Who knew?
The problem is that nobody has been able to provide me with a solid and concise answer for what it means to be Japanese.
Simple, hun. You're from Japan.
If Japaneseness is defined by looking Japanese,
Nobody
then
said
which one
that.
are we going with? Are we going with the Jomon face or the Yayoi face? Japanese people themselves are fully aware of the diversity we have in terms of Japaneseness because of these classifications they made. These are all different archetypes for different Japanese faces, so people understand there's no one way to look Japanese. The problem is that nobody has been able to provide me with a solid and concise answer for what it
This is exactly what leftists do. They ask a question, and then they pose an answer to that question, and then respond to that answer, even though it's not a real answer to the question. It's not a real answer that anybody's given. Nobody said that you're Japanese because you fucking look Japanese. You're Japanese because you're from Japan. What does an American look like? Literally any nationality possible. Or ethnicity, rather, not nationality. What is a Japanese person? A person from Japan. Alright. I just needed to finish with some genuine good old stupidity, because I'm so tired of the rest of it. x.com/JBU_show. Don't forget to like, follow, know when we go live. Again, we will be going live tomorrow, no later than 5 o'clock West Coast time, ideally. Probably a little bit before that for Artemis Splashdown, which is supposedly at 5:07 West Coast time, or 8 o'clock, 8:07 on the East Coast. So adjust accordingly based on where you are. So if you'd like to watch that with me in Austin, you can do that. You can check out the Miller Talk podcast, millertalk.substack.com. And of course, you can see the Rumble up there as well. You can watch us there, or the best place, x.com/JBU_show. You can interact with me. You can message, like, follow, share, all that good stuff. And of course, you can watch the show on a platform that doesn't censor what we have to say. I don't think I have anything else for you tonight. Thank God. I mean, technically I have plenty more, but who cares? Have a good night, guys. We'll see you tomorrow. With that, my name is Chris, and this has been the JBU Show.
Bye, 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 bye. Wait, I want to be a little bit louder.
Yeah.
This is only between us.
This is just between us.
This is just between us.
Perfect. Perfect. Perfect.